our fellow lovers of love, and thank you for joining us on yet another excursion through the stream of consciousness down the river of tranquility to fill the lake of life with love.
And good evening, our fellow lovers of love, and thank you for joining us on this sweltering evening here in the middle of summer. Isn't this like the longest day of the year? Or is that Tuesday or Wednesday? Anyway, it's right around the summer solstice, and it's hot here in this here studio. So we're sitting here sweating. You know why. We do have a little air conditioner here, but it can't really keep up, and it'd be loud if we turned it on. So we're just going to have to sit here and be hot for the next half hour. But that's all right, because we're talking about leadership tonight. And it's, leadership's an interesting thing, because we often think of it in terms of, business or politics, maybe sports. But the reality is, the skills of leadership and its benefits from having good leadership and the negative impacts of subpar leadership are actually, they ripple through our lives, and our society. I mean, we can take your pick. We can look out in the world and we can see it. We can see the lack of leadership and the impact it has on our culture and our society. We put politics aside because we don't discuss it here, but you can just see it in our culture. You can see it as we walk down the streets. We are a culture that lacks purpose. But part of that is because we as individuals lack purpose. It's easy to point fingers and blame our leaders, but if we aren't our leaders, then who is? If you can't or are unwilling to lead your own life, as fallible and as we are, leadership isn't about not failing. It's about the process of picking yourself back up and learning from your failures, brushing yourself off and moving on, while still making the world around you a better place. I think that's, for me, fundamentally what leadership is. Failure is the human condition. Or not say failure, not succeeding the way you wish is the human condition. It just is. It's the way life works. But if you go back to all the great philosophers and the ancient poets, all the way to today, they kind of have a similar theme. You have to. The answers to the problems of the world are internal. As long as we continue to look for external answers, we'll never find them. And as we've been doing research for the show and trying to educate myself on my other roles in life and how to better serve my communities, I've been doing research on leadership. And there's some common threads that everybody speaks about in terms of leadership. And most of these are, business leadership and or political leadership and that kind of thing. But the truth be told, you can't separate it. Because, some of the threads that run through all these perspectives on leadership is you have to love other people. If you want to be a good leader, you have to love other people. You can't lead people you don't like. You can't lead people you don't love. People won't follow you unless they think they care about you.
You care about them.
Yes, thank you. I said that backwards, didn't I?
Yeah.
Yeah. People won't follow you unless they know you care about them. And so, that's how you end up with people who follow these people we don't understand. We don't understand how it happens. It's because they've reached them on some level that other people weren't talking to. And then when you have this big, huge mass movement based upon that, that means we have a problem. It means we have a structural leadership problem. It means people are so thirsty for leadership that they're willing to grasp onto things that are irrational because they think it's hurt them. Well, none of these other people will hear me, but at least this person does. And so I'm going to follow that guy. That's how it happens. That's how these people end up in cults. That's how you end up with these weird political movements. Luckily they tend to die relatively quickly, but the point is, those are symptoms. Those aren't causes. Those are symptoms of a much deeper, much bigger problem. And that's, a lack of leadership. And, it's funny because I was listening to a leadership lecture that's not in our list. If you go to latenightLove.us, you can find that our preparation list. But one of the things that they mentioned was, and I forgot where I was going with that. That's what happens when I drop in a promo in the mid-thought.
You were working.
No, I was watching. But I was trying to remember what the point was about. I was watching. Anyway, it'll come back to me. We'll cover it at some point during the night. I know that's how these things work. But it's, I don't know. We all kind of need leadership in our lives, and we need to stop asking other people for it and ask what we provide. Do you care for the person to the right of you? Do you care to the person to the left of you? Generally, do you hear them? Doesn't mean hearing somebody and having empathy doesn't mean you agree with them. It means you've heard them. And people can't move from where they are until they feel heard. And it's one of the hardest things to learn to do is to genuinely hear somebody that you disagree with, because we are so unpracticed at it now.
I'm still working on it.
Yeah, well, it's hard anyway.
I'm getting better.
Well, it's a hard thing, humans. It's a hard thing to do from a human perspective anyway, right? It's a very hard thing to do. So you have to practice at it. When things are hard, we have to practice at it to be good. But we don't let ourselves practice at it. And just like leadership, we don't let ourselves practice at it. We're so afraid of making mistakes. We're so afraid of failure. Our systems, right from our education system right up to our business systems, they punish failure, and they don't care how you succeed. And it's daft because in education, failure is how you learn. And in business, how you succeed is how you do things is actually often more important than what you do. You can meet your numbers, but if you've created chaos in the system on your way, if you've got a team that has low morale, it's going to break later on. If you just barely miss your numbers, but your team is well motivated, everybody's reaching, you're eventually going to reach your goal. It's just going to take you a little longer. And we end up rewarding the guy with the toxic environment because he hit his numbers on this arbitrary date, when really we should be rewarding the people who have the functional, trustworthy team. And we teach that right from our education system. And it's not on purpose. We don't do it on purpose. Our education system was designed to fit a need of 150 years ago. It's just not that time now. And, we need to focus on leadership and those there's some common strains. Watch, we're going to go through some of these things real quick. There's some common thoughts. All right, this one is from, which one is this one from?
This one is from How Leadership Affects. Hold on.
Affects your personal life. So this is from
How Leadership Affects Life. Sorry, I was scrolling.
No, this is from a farmer. It's you kind of the salt of the earth kind of perspective on it. And here's his ones. It's having a good character and being trustworthy. Right? So it's trust. Having an enthusiastic passion for what you're doing. Being confident in yourself. Focusing on a direction with a positive demeanor. remaining calm throughout the rocky, tough times, right? Keeping the main goal in focus and not getting sidetracked, and committing to excellence and high standards. From a farmer's, that's the farmer's perspective on leadership. But what's interesting is you can go to a different one, and this one is from Why Leadership is Important in Your Great Life, and it's actually from it's from an online university, Open University, I believe is what it's called. And so here's theirs. Their bullet points: accountability, awareness, confidence, decisiveness, empathy, focus, honesty, inspiration, optimism. It's the same list. It's the same freaking list. Arranged differently because of their different perspectives, but it's the same list. I mean, because you got one from a farmer, you've got from from a university, and you've got this other one from a leadership coach. Leadership coach, right? And here's what does personal leadership matter? And you guys have personal qualities: vision, self-discipline, spirituality, and not religion, spirituality. There's a difference. Do you have that?
Yes, I do.
You want to read the difference?
Spirituality?
Yeah.
Spirituality is the process of living out a set of deeply held personal values, of honoring forces or a presence greater than ourselves. It expresses our desire to find meaning in and to treat as an offering what we do. While we may not completely understand it, that spiritual component drives us to live life for more than just our own personal fulfillment.
And it doesn't have to be religion or God. It can be a spirituality to your community, right? If you put your community can be that higher calling. Your society can be that higher calling. It's the willingness to kind of sacrifice part of yourself to something bigger, something more important. And then you've got integrity, honesty, open communication, kindness, and this one's a different one. It's legacy building. And do you have a second when you want to give them the quote on the legacy building?
Where is that? Okay, here it is. To quote Charles Spurgeon, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. A good character is the best tombstone. Those who loved you and were helped by you will remember you when forget-me-nots have withered. Carve your name on hearts, not on marble.
Now, see, that's actually the different one as a leadership coach. But the rest of those, it's the same list. Right? There are three different perspectives. You got the education perspective, you had kind of the salt of the earth perspective of a farmer, and then you've got a perspective of someone who does this for a living, who teaches leadership for a living. Right? That's what they do. They're a leadership coach. They teach leadership to people and businesses. And it's the same freaking list. They're put in different terms because they're serving different purposes. They're reaching different audiences. But it's the same freaking list. Be honest, be ethical, be open. What I like to call have a representative mindset. I come from politics, so that's where I come. That's my thought. You have a representative mindset. I no longer get to have personal views. I don't. And it's not that I've sidelined them. It's the views of my community are now more important. And so my personal views just automatically get filtered. I don't even think about it. It's just part of my job. It's part of my responsibility. It's fundamentally part of who I am. And so that's what I call a representative mindset. And that's what it means when you put people first. We all like to say things. We've all heard politicians and business leaders and people in our lives will say things that are all goofy and aren't true, right? But we put our customers first. We put our employees first. You haven't talked to a customer, an employee, or a real voter in 10 years. You don't put them first. That's not really what you do. And they know it. They're lying to you. But they're not really doing it. But it's because they just lack the leadership skills. If they would say, look, here's what I do. I want to build the most healthy work environment I can, so the people who actually help our customers, the people who actually interact with the voters, the people who actually do the ground level work are free to do their work. I build a place where we're of trust, where we give them the ability to do their work, and if they say, I need help, they're willing to ask because there's no consequences. This is, oh, you need help? Let's help you. Let's figure this out. And we don't do that. When somebody makes a mistake, what do we do nowadays? We punish them. Someone makes a bad joke, we cancel their life. And we think we've made the world a better place. It's ludicrous. We've become the bad people. In an effort to make our country and our communities a kinder, gentler place, we've made it a colder, heartless place. And, there's the saying, the best intentions, path to hell, paved good intentions. And that's because the truth is, we don't know what's best for the future. The future isn't here. So all we can do is act ethically and honorably, be open, have as much communication as we can possibly manage. And don't overjudge yourself when you fail. You pick yourself up and you try to do better again. Because you're going to fail. Leadership isn't easy. It's hard. Leading yourself isn't easy. Hell, getting up in the morning and just going through your normal routine isn't easy. So cut yourself some slack. But you have to set that goal of, I want to be better every day. And some days I won't be. Some days I will be. But I'm going to try to be better. Because it's the honors in the effort. So I don't know. So what did you learn when you did your study of leadership? Did you learn anything when you were kind of poking around in your research?
Well, they were often a lot alike, but they had some that were different. Some put more on family, like the farmer was more on family. Others were more on business. One was seemed more business-like. And one seemed more personal.
Yeah, and there's this last one I had you. This is something about 3 business skills, but I can't. It doesn't format relevant to share on the screen. So it's hard for me to see it.
Oh, first is a good. It's
a good mindset.
3, great leaders need these 3 personal leadership skills.
Mm-hmm. So the first one is a good mindset, which I talked about.
A good mindset, yes.
What I call the representative mindset. I call it a representative mindset, but it's a good explanation, right? It's not just a positive attitude. It's about thinking of others, and thinking of the long term. Thinking of long-term consequences, contemplating, the various consequences of your actions, both good and bad, the ones you want and the ones you don't, the ones you anticipate, and trying to anticipate the unanticipatable. You can avoid unforced errors by thinking things through, and it's hard because emotion can get in the way. So.
I had a boss. He used to drive me crazy. I used to come to him with a problem.
Uh-huh.
And he used to make me wait and wait and wait. He was thinking the whole time. It made me nuts. But when he made up his mind, he'd go, okay, here's what we're going to do. Step 1, 2, 3, 4. Go do it.
Well, and there's another way you can, there's another way that you could actually have approached that situation. He says, he could have gone, what do you think we should do?
He did sometimes.
Yeah.
But usually there were problems that were out of my league. They were beyond my pay scale, dude.
Yeah.
They had lots of zeros behind them.
It wasn't your thing. Yeah. Here's a problem. I need you to solve it because it's not my job. But
That's exactly what I did.
that is because it's really not my job. But then he takes forever to. So that's just but it's.
But there's something to be said about when he did make a decision.
It was thought through.
It was well thought out, and he had any resources I need ready.
See, so he was planning. He was actually doing the hard taking his time. He was
doing something, but he made me nuts because he wouldn't tell me. I'm thinking about it. I'm halfway there. I just have a few more details to tweak out. He would just say, no, I don't know. I don't know.
Well, it's because he didn't know. I can actually get that because he didn't really know how much details was left to work out, so he can't tell you. I could understand that thing. So, but he was actually had at least he was forward thinking, and so that's a good thinking of consequences and trying to plan the best way through rather than just becoming asses and elbows.
Well, yeah, I had this one boss. You go in there and he'd give you this big long laundry list of things he want done. And then I'd say, okay, what's your priorities? And he'd say, all of them.
Yeah, they all can't be number one priorities. That's not how priorities work. Okay, so we get it. They're all important, but some of these are more important than others. Some of these have to get done before other things can get done. Can you help me work through this, please? Yep. Because you can't have everything can't be a number one priority. It's just not how things work. It's just sometimes things have to get done in certain orders. You can't do number 10 until number 14 gets done because something's not there, right? You don't have the data or whatever. You don't have the materials, whatever it happens to be. So, yeah, and they need to tell you this thing, or they need to help you figure it out. Not just, that's not my problem.
Yeah, he did, basically.
That's not my problem. It's all yours. Congratulations. Yeah. Yeah, sure. So what was the next one?
Energy management. Managing your work and home life.
Yeah, cool.
So you can be at your best when you're both at home and at work.
Well, if you're exhausted, you can't make the best decisions. You just can't, right? If you're physically or emotionally or mentally exhausted, you're not going to make good decisions. And so making sure that your energy levels, be it emotional energy, be it mental energy or physical energy, those all exist. Those all have to kind of be in tune, or else you're not going to be. It's just like managing any other part of your health. Like we talk about managing your mental health, and it's the same thing. Right? You have to manage these things and you stay on top of them. All right, so what's the last one?
The last one is strong support systems. People you trust, people you can use as a sounding board.
Well, you have to.
Trusted colleagues, family, friends.
Well, you can't really get through life without trust, can you? Some of the most broken people are those people who can no longer trust. They can no longer have working functional relationships because they can no longer trust. And it's not their fault. They've had trust violated too often. And they can no longer bring themselves to it. You can't blame them. But it's sad. There's people out there that don't have people to trust. And it's sad that we as a society and a culture, we don't promote the idea of trust. We don't promote that you can't have functional relationships without genuine trust of any kind. You can't have a business relationship without trust, right? As much as we don't like to think about it, the reason McDonald's is successful is because we trust them to not kill us. We trust them to not poison our food. We trust that food may not be great, but it's always going to be pretty much the same. That's a trust. There's a trust in that relationship. The same thing with Starbucks. People go to Starbucks because they can trust where they're going. They know what they're going to get. It's a comforting experience. You walk into any Starbucks in your town, and you're going to be able to order the same thing. You're going to pretty much get exactly what you want. That's trust. And so much of our relationships are based around this trust, and we don't contemplate it. We know our personal relationships revolve around trust. We know in our personal relationships, especially the most intimate ones, that if you violate the trust, that the relationship is in serious peril. We know that, but we somehow don't transfer that knowledge outside of that. We think that somehow we can live our business life without trusting the people we work with. We think we can have a political life or a cultural life with organizations and communities that lack trust. It doesn't function. We're human beings, and our lives are about relationships. We don't survive without them. We don't thrive without them. And if we look around now and we see the cultural and economic devastation, and we see the lack of functional relationships, it's not a surprise to me. Those two things go hand in hand. So how do we fix it? By fixing ourselves. We provide leadership in our lives. We start taking care of the people next to us. We start taking care of the people that we are responsible for in some way. They will start taking care of us. You know this. I don't know if they do this in the Army, but in the Marines, in any Marine base around the world, you go to the mess hall, and the lowest person eats first. The leaders eat last. And it's not a policy. It's not written down anywhere. That's just because that's what good leaders do. You go back to George Washington. People would send him stuff. He'd give it to his men, and his men would bring him food. Because leaders eat last. Leaders make sure the people that they are responsible for are taken care of. Leaders make sure the people, their communities, have been heard. And when you do that, your family, your friends, your relationship, your communities will do wonderful things for you. And then they will do wonderful things for the world. That's how we get through this. With together and with love. Because as we said out there on the title, leadership is love. It's about loving your fellow human being. It's about loving enough to go through all this pain in the butt stuff. And you do that, and together we can accomplish wonderful, glorious things. Thank you for being with us tonight. You can find us at latenightLove.us. You can always send Lovey a dear Lovey letter at a dear Lovey letter at love@latenightLove.us. I'm never going to get that right. And so catch us on, what's today? Today's Thursday. Catch us Saturday night. We got questions again, so that should be fun. Let's see if we send Lovey down another Reddit rabbit hole. We'll see if
Okay.
Well, all right. So Lovey's going down the Reddit rabbit hole again. This is going to be fun. We'll see you guys Saturday night, 9 p.m. Pacific time. And please remember,